Manchester dad Clive Pinnock, who was also known to the people of Manchester as Mr Ibiza, was a social butterfly and an adrenaline junkie and super popular. The 38-year-old was said to have had a lot of hobbies such as boxing and also riding his beloved Kawazaki Ninja. Now, it was the height of the pandemic and restrictions had been in place for pretty much the entire country. The order from the people in charge was simple: stay at home and help curb the virus. But Clive had decided to take a ride on his motorbike and reach speeds of 48 miles per hour in a 30 miles per hour zone, which ultimately cost the dad his life. Just 24 hours later, over 100 people had gathered to share their shock, love and disbelief outside the Tesco store on Hyde Road in Gorton after the news went around that Mr Ibiza was dead. Mourners were raw with emotions and had gathered at the scene of his death, trying to piece together the dad's last moments, but also figure out why did it have to be Clive Pinnock of all people? Why did he have to die in such a horror crash? So, the day before, Mr Ibiza had been seen riding his Kawasaki Ninja ZX-10R 998cc motorbike along the A57 in Manchester. Sadly, it collided with a black BMW that was preparing to turn right into the Tesco car park. This should have been a straightforward case. However, there were elements that played a pivotal role in why some people were jailed. Behind the wheel of the black BMW was Daniel Masoulis. He had also approached the Tesco from the A57 in the direction of Manchester city centre at an estimated time of 5:15 p.m. on April 8th. While Daniel had prepared to turn right into the Tesco car park, Clive Pinnock had performed a wheelie on his green and blue motorbike along the A57. Again, he was said to have been travelling at roughly 48 miles per hour. Despite Clive breaking the speed limit, the judge says that if Daniel had not made the poor decision to drink drive, he should have spotted Clive Pinnock approaching. Now, Clive, who was said to hail from the Longsight area, had struck Daniel's black BMW at such a ferocious speed that witnesses described the Kawasaki as flying through the air as though it was a winged animal. 1 second passed, 2 seconds passed, 3 seconds passed, another and the motorbike was still soaring through the air. Clive had also spun, twisted and curved through the section of the scene on Gorton Road outside the Tesco before he landed on the road. The collision was so blunt, so impactful, so high speed that Clive suffered broken pelvis and broken neck. He also suffered a traumatic brain injury, something that you would never come back from. Now, witnesses had dialed 999 and stayed with Clive Pinnock until emergency services arrived on the scene. The Manchester dad was put on a stretcher, a neck brace placed round his neck and then blue lighted to the local hospital where surgeons had been placed on standby. Clive Pinnock underwent emergency surgery, but the emergency procedure did nothing to aid in Clive's recovery, and tragically Mr Ibiza was pronounced dead just under 4 hours later at 9:20 p.m. that evening. Now, people react to such catastrophic circumstances in a lot of different ways. While some people are spurred into action, others stall and some people may run away. And what Daniel Masoulis did was a combination of all three. After exiting his crumpled BMW, Daniel initially went over to Clive's aid and checked on him, but then CCTV showed Daniel backtracking. He then turned in a different direction and began to jog away, panicking and fretting, away from the scene of the accident. He then headed to a shop in Abbey Hay. Not thinking straight, Daniel put cash in a counter and then walked away with a bottle of vodka and also Coca-Cola. Taking long swigs, Daniel gulped and gulped the alcohol down. Daniel did not call 999 straight away. When he called the police at 5:30 p.m. at this point, Clive was already being attended by the general public, and roughly 30 minutes had already passed. The operator answered the call and quickly noticed that Daniel was hyperventilating. As he told the operator through shallow breaths and panicked voice, "I don't know what to do. The motorbike hit my car. The motorbike was going so fast it just hit me. This is not my fault." When police had spoke to Daniel Masoulis, he was breathalyzed by police and found to be over the limit, which was not surprising. Daniel did admit to downing vodka after the collision and before the breathalyzer, which would account for blowing 129 milligrams in 100 ml of blood when the legal limit was 80. Of course, Daniel was arrested and he was beyond shocked. Daniel tried to explain that he hadn't been drinking prior to the incident, but he needed a drink after he witnessed Clive Pinnock there on the ground in order to stem his nerves. Now, Daniel's defence did not hold up in court, and when he was found guilty of causing death by careless driving by over the drink-drive limit, Daniel was left stunned. Officers at the scene of the accident had testified in court. Police says that when they first met Daniel, he was sitting down with a bottle of vodka that was 90% finished. Police also went to check on Daniel's car. They found a 100ml bottle of vodka empty, stashed in under the driver's seat. A third bottle was found by the driver's door empty, and there was 2 full bottles in Daniel's bag. Now, police say that Daniel had ran to the corner shop and purchased a bottle of vodka in order to be seen, to be caught on camera actually buying the alcohol, because he knew he was already over the limit. He knew that he already had too much to drink, but Daniel allegedly wanted to be seen like he had only drank after the collision, of course, in order to mask his alcoholic tendencies. And again, within 24 hours, friends and families and associates of Mr Ibiza had gathered at the scene of the accident, where they left trophies, cards and makeshift shrines, cards with messages like RIP Mr Ibiza. Now, despite Daniel Pinnock making waves in the Manchester nightclub scene and the Spanish island of Ibiza, Clive was considered a no-nonsense type of person, which was evidenced from the stint in jail where he was sentenced to an 11-year sentence, which dated back to 2015, because he had allegedly plated 2 separate people in 2 separate incidences during rows in a pub in the city, and then he proceeded to try brawl his way into the Bar Club. Allegedly, the Pinnock family in Manchester were known to have problems and were known to be quote-unquote gangsters. Now, on the date of Clive Mr Ibiza Pinnock's funeral on April 23rd of 2020, police allowed hundreds of people to attend the Gorton cemetery, even though there had been murmurs of violence taking place. A GUN man says to be 24-year-old Mohammed Umar had equipped himself with a pistol and took aim at a group of up to 300 people who were close together. As music blared on a PA system and people were drinking, dancing, sharing stories and laughing, and also mourning. Now, police were said to have been monitoring the crowd from a distance and did nothing when members of the public complained about the noise and the lack of restrictions. And then at 6:45 PM, Mohammed Umar had aimed his pistol and pressed the trigger once, twice, 3 times, up to 4 times at the group, not caring who was struck. Mohammed had no escape plan, no escape route mapped out, and had not foreseen that Clive Pinnock's loved ones were ready to go straight into action mode. A mourner had screamed, "Get him," while another person shouted, "Who sent you?" Mohammed was then chased through the cemetery. Predator quickly turned into prey. Clive's loved ones already had bottles in their hands, and some had other items and objects, and they caught Mohammed and quickly took him to the ground. Innocent members of the public had also hidden in bushes at the booming sound, 4 in total. Now, the 24-year-old was quickly swamped and then taught a lesson by being struck repeatedly, mostly to the face, until they drew red and he was left in a swollen, lumpy mess, and part of his face was left open. The entire incident was captured on CCTV, including the moment Mohammed had pulled out his pistol and then aimed at no target in particular, the sea of faces and bodies. When Mohammed was arrested, he was wearing dark clothing and wearing latex gloves with his hood over his face. Police found casings near where Clive Pinnock had been laid to rest, but the GUN was not recovered on that date. However, police received an anonymous tip to search the bins on Manor Road. When police searched the bins, no item was found initially. However, a stranger went up to a female officer and pointed at one bin in particular before leaving the location. Of course, the officer checked and rifled through the bin bags, and there they found a heavy lump of metal, silver, and that's when the hand GUN had been recovered. Now, the hand GUN was initially a blank, a replica, but it had been modified in order to take real rounds, and it was in full working order. and it matched the casings that was left at Clive Pinnock's resting place. Mohammed Umar was arrested, of course, and then interviewed. He answered no comment to all questions. However, he pled guilty to possession of a gun with intent, along with other charges. His motive was never established. Now, Mohammed Umar offered no reason, as I said, and no motive for his actions, and at Manchester Crown Court, Mohammed Umar was jailed for 6 years and 6 months. Now, depending on who you ask, Clive Pinnock was a role model and a legend, and a loyal person to his friends and family. To others, he was nothing but a brute and a bully and a gangster. You can make up your own mind, but condolences. Does the crime match the sentence? Let me know. Stay safe. Safe.